All right, it looks like we are recording. Let's assume we're recording. Hello again, everybody. I'm Terry Vanderbeck with Sanford Health. Welcome back to the latest in our ongoing content series around supporting athletes, parents, and coaches through the COVID-19 situation. Got an esteemed panel today with me that we will get into momentarily with introductions. But first and foremost, just want to kind of lay the groundwork today. If you've been following along closely, you know that things are starting to obviously ramp up to some form of activity in various parts of the country, including some of the Sanford territory on the map, I guess. And so a group of experts behind the scenes here at Sanford that encompass, orthopedics and physical therapy, athletic trainers, sports science, strength conditioning. They decided to come together a few weeks ago and really kind of help guide folks along that way so that they're, I think, number one, cognizant of it, not thinking that they're in just as good a shape today as they would normally be on this date or before all of this started, and then also kind of helping them guide through it in a safe manner so that we don't end up any more than necessary seeing the likes of our colleague Dr. Skelly here, who is one of our orthopedic surgeon experts that would help you with injuries if it came to that. So Dr. Skelly, let's start with you. Again, you are relatively new to the Sanford team, and you want to get to know the community people, but you don't want to meet them under bad circumstances. If you could give us a couple things that, from your vantage point in orthopedics in particular, you feel like are important for maybe even coaches right now, knowing that the kids a lot of times follows the lead of the coaches. How can coaches kind of be wary of opening things up too quickly?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So as an orthopedic surgeon, many people think that, yes, they see me when disaster strikes. But orthopedic surgeons, along with sports medicine specialists, really try to prevent injuries as well. And that's what the Sanford Power and Physical Therapy program has worked really hard to create this program to help guide coaches, athletic trainers, even parents that are trying to get their athlete from a lockdown pandemic standpoint back to their high level of athletic functioning. This program, as the team can describe, lays out different stages and phases of getting back to that high level of athletics so that we avoid muscle, joint, and tendon and ligament injuries that would make you come and see an orthopedic surgeon. So it's a great program that's really going to help get athletes back to their sports.
Yeah, and let's go next to Brett Fisher right above you there on our Brady board screen. Brett is one of our sports physical therapists and a heck of an amateur baseball player too, if you were wondering. Brett, tell us how did you guys bring this together from the standpoint of, checking all the boxes, knowing that kids want to get back after it and certainly coaches, but also that they're not the experts in all these areas in the way you guys are. What kind of inspired bringing together this phase plan?
Well, I think in just having a lot of conversation within our office when all this pandemic kind of started affecting us here, that was one of the first few thoughts that I had was, being a baseball guy, am I going to be able to get to play amateur baseball this year? But then for all the kids out there, this is typically a time of year where we'll start to see some injuries, because typically early in the season, as kids are getting out and starting to work through practices and throwing and things, that's when a lot of throwing type of injuries start. So I guess for me, that's where it started in my brain a little bit. And then in talking with Sean and Jesse a little bit about it, we kind of decided as a group to try to surround ourselves with some really smart people that could help us out with coming up with some general guidelines. And I think we did a good job of that. But I think that's kind of where it all started. And we're kind of hoping to make somewhat of an impact for these kids that are going to be going back to their sports here at some point.
Yeah, definitely, not to get too inside baseball, but having all the folks on this screen have a little more time to connect with one another during all of this has definitely been one of those benefits. I can say that as a parent of a young athlete. You guys have spent a lot of time thinking and chatting and planning recently in a way that we're all usually probably so busy, it makes it challenging. So one of those folks for folks behind the scenes, this connection has really been strong and solid, and it's been interesting to see come to fruition. Let's go next to Sean Duffy, one of our certified athletic trainers. Sean, had COVID not happened, you're getting late in that school year, a lot of multi-sport kids, where obviously multi-sport is great, and we preach that. At the same time, it gets to be a long year. You're maybe starting to get a little tired, maybe a little banged up. You're trying to use the NBA term, do some sort of load management. Kids though that are going to be starting now, can we tell them it's okay? It may have felt strange to them, but odds are that rest was probably okay for them? Is that a message we want to send? That, you know, I know it feels counterintuitive, but really trust us. It's going to be okay. Take that rest, feel good about it, and now here's how we're going to help you get back to the competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think for athletic trainers all across our enterprise, that this could be seen as a blessing in disguise to some extent, as long as the ramp up is done properly. You know, athletes that you have those tough conversations with and you're telling them, hey, I need you to take 6 weeks off to get better from this injury. And they're going to be warriors, and they're going to try to battle through a lot of those injuries on a typical calendar year. But with the COVID situation and everything shutting down, that rest was already built in, and they don't feel like they were missing out on what their peers were doing. So from that standpoint, it's a big advantage for our athletic trainers. Again, though, as long as this ramp up and the return to full go is kind of handled in the right way. And, you know, that's like Dr. Skelly had said, as far as prevention, that's really one of the primary roles of the athletic trainers in their schools and in their settings, is they're focused on prevention. And I think that we have the opportunity to really build upon these phases once we do return to competition, and hopefully we don't lose any kids that, you know, for the fall season that have already had their spring season eliminated. So
Jesse, with Sanford Power, we all know that that the invincibility of youth is both a blessing and a curse. I imagine a lot of kids are going to feel rested. They're going to come back and be excited and ready to go. The sun's out. Let's do this. How do you guys, as strength conditioning coaches, then sort of put the reins on them, especially early on, knowing that it goes against their personality, it goes against their general youth and excitement, and it may even go against what they're, hopefully not coaches that we deal with, but, you know, some coaches are kind of old school and will go, nope, we're gonna, hopefully they're not, but again, you know, there's silly coaches out there, we're gonna run till we vomit. That's how, now we had a good workout today. What kind of advice would you give maybe to parents, athletes, or coaches, just to get around, like, slow down? You don't want to tear a hamstring the first time out because you think you're in great shape and you're really you're detrained a little bit.
Well, yeah, detraining that's the biggest issue. We've had a lot of time away from being with athletes and seeing athletes in our building, and they've kind of disappeared here for 6 weeks, unfortunately. And we tried to stay in contact with them, whether it's online meetings and those kind of things, but you're not sure if they're doing the right things outside of that small little window that you get to see an athlete. The biggest thing that we can do as strength coaches is we can educate the athlete of what happens if we don't follow the process the right way. Yes, they are detrained. They may not know it, and some athletes may know they're not where they need to be. And every athlete's going to be a little bit different. And some athletes may be ready to progress to a phase 2, where you can do velocity-based movements and those type of things. But if an athlete is detrained, you can't jump in right away. We as coaches have to educate the athletes about what can happen and what injuries occur. And as a strength coach, we always work with healthy, motivated athletes. Those are the people that come in our doors. If there's an issue injury-wise, we push them on to someone else on our team to get them back to where they need to be. For the first time ever, healthy athletes have had to take 6 weeks off. Usually it's the injured people that have to sit and wait, and they understand they don't feel 100% yet. Now we've got athletes who feel like they're ready to go, and we've got to go through this process safely, make sure they stay healthy. If we don't, we're going to lose more time, and we could have a setback when regular activity comes back. So we definitely have to avoid those issues.
Yeah, let's turn next to Thane Muntz with the Sanford Sports Science Institute. Thane, your group is one of those that kind of helps fill in those cracks and everything too. We've talked a lot about the physical part, but certainly one of the themes that we've tried to get across to athletes has been the sports nutrition stuff. You can always get better at that, so do that now. We brought in Andy Gillum to talk about the mental side of things. And the overall theme here of phase 1 is preparation. Obviously we're hoping that people have prepared, knowing that these are the kind of things they could be doing sort of while they're sitting on the couch. At the same point, it kind of gets real now that you're trying to cram for your test, right? Whereas you maybe didn't study at a solid pace moving along. What kind of tips would you have for athletes right now as in terms of being, I guess, honest with themselves. And maybe you're going to be exposed, I guess, if you weren't doing the right things. Even if maybe you're telling mom and dad you were, kind of making coach think you were. You've got to really look yourself in the mirror right now, though, and know what you were doing, what you weren't doing, and then go through those steps, because if you skip steps, you might end up with trouble.
Right. I think for the last, 6 or 7 weeks, there's been so much uncertainty about how long this is going to last. As Brett commented, are we going to have a summer sports season, a fall sports season? Now, as people and coaches are starting to plan for that reentry into sport, it does get real for the athlete, and the athletes can start to be thinking about how can they best prepare themselves, one, to reduce their risk of injury when they do ramp up the intensity and the workloads and the demands of sport, and two, just how can they put themselves in the best position to succeed and to reach the level of performance that they left off at, or that they expect to see of themselves this year. And there are some simple things that the kids can do, and really focus on things that they can control with their hydration, their sleep, their nutrition right now. A lot of times kids complain that they're too busy. They're too busy to get to bed early and to get good sleep. They've got their homework, they've got practice and games. Well, now's a really good time to set a good sleep schedule. Get to bed early, get a full 8 hours of sleep, and get up early in the morning. Breakfast. So the excuses of not having time to eat breakfast or make breakfast, again, I think maybe we could push some of those things aside right now and get in those good habits of eating breakfast, eating good meals, eating good recovery snacks, staying hydrated, keeping a water bottle with you throughout the day, so that hopefully those good habits and patterns transition into these next phases, and you're actually a more well prepared athlete for the next phases of sport.
Sure. We're going to give Dr. Skelly the last word. Again, this first phase we're calling preparation. Phase 2 we're calling transition. Dr. Skelly, if you could summarize how, again, an athlete, a parent, or a coach should know that they're ready to move on from phase 1, which we've talked about today, into phase 2, which we'll talk about next time. And some of that certainly is going to be determined by availability. If you can now go to a gym versus doing things at home. But beyond that, is there some sort of gut feeling, or how should they know that, okay, I'm ready to properly move on?
No, it's a little bit more than a gut feeling. So it's going to be very unique for each individual athlete, for each team, and each coach. That's what's beautiful about this program that Sanford Power and Sanford Physical Therapy Group has put out, is that these stages are unique to each athlete as they go on this transition back into play. It's going to be a challenge for a lot of people to adjust in this way, and it's going to be a lot more than just the sports, like we were just talking about. It's a whole lifestyle, from hydration to nutrition to the way that you sleep, to be a well-rounded athlete today. I don't want to see it in my clinic, but if I have to, I mean, we're here at Sanford Health to help with that, to get you back on the field, to cover any kind of muscle, joint, ligament injury that people sustain. The goal of this program is to prevent you from seeing the orthopedic surgeon.
Sure, fantastic. Again, just to remind the audience, stick with us here in the coming weeks. We're going to walk you through this. We understand that different locations, different places, different gyms have different schools, they have different policies, different access. So we're going to kind of give you a broad overview. We're going to publish things as we have them, knowing that we also want to have the latest information in creating those plans. But bottom line, stay tuned. We're going to continue to walk you through this. If you have questions, please reach out to us. We'd be glad to discuss any of those specifics. And then to put it, but one, thanks to all of our experts for investing their time in this series. Again, I know as a parent, you better believe this is going on the fridge at home. So thank you guys for what you're doing, and thanks for being part of helping spread the message. Take care, everybody, and we will